So we start with the invocation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namassami. Good morning, everybody. So, this is our second lesson on the Four Noble Truths. Last time we spoke about some general characteristics of the Four Noble Truths, and we exposed the first one. And today we start with the second Noble Truth. There is the will. Okay. The second Noble Truth, Tanha. So we first read again the text of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. This is the formulation, the classical formulation of the second Noble Truth. Now this, bhikkhus, is the Noble Truth of the origin of suffering. It is this craving which leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there. That is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for extermination. If you remember last time when we spoke about the definition of the term dukkha, we say that the Buddha gave to this term that originally means suffering. He gave to this term a much deeper meaning. That is, dukkha represents the unsatisfactory nature of all phenomena, and all phenomena are they don't give lasting satisfaction because they are impermanent and selfless. But we pointed out that impermanence in itself is not the problem. Impermanence does not hurt anybody. What is the problem? Where dukkha arises, it arises from the mind. It arises from our own relationship with phenomena, from the desire for impermanence to be permanent. So this is why craving is at the base of dukkha, is its origin. So, because dukkha is a mental phenomenon, is not inherent to phenomena, is totally mental, and craving is its origin. Of course, when we say that craving is the origin of dukkha, we are not saying that is the only one origin of dukkha. We are simply saying that is the most prominent one. Of course, craving cannot express its function without the foundation of avidya. So actually, when we say that craving is the origin of dukkha, we are pointing to a complex net of conditions for the origin of dukkha, of which craving is the foremost. And what is the meaning of tanha? Tanha literally means thirst. And this already gives us the significance of the term, because it suggests this endless urge for fulfilling a need. And this is the meaning of craving, is always trying to fulfilling something, to fulfilling a need. There is always something that it lacks, something that is not perfect, something that is not right. And this is the meaning of craving, is always looking for something more, something better. And it is defined as ponobhavika, which is this one, the craving which leads to renewed existence. Punar is an adverb and means again, and bhava means existence, so a renewed existence. Is craving that leads from one existence to the next, that makes the stitch that makes the links from one existence to the next. And its characteristics are Nandi Raga, Sahagata, Tatra Tatra Abhinandi. Nandi Raga Sahagata means, as is written here, accompanied by delight and lust. Saha is a particle, means together with, and Gata is a so-called participle. So it's come together with Nandi and Raga. Delight, and Nandi is delight, and Raga is greed, lust. So it's always together with delight and lust. And Tatra Tatra Abhinandi, Tatra Tatra has this meaning of here and there, trying to find the light here and there, and it's almost onomatopoeic because it suggests that this nature of the mind of jumping from one object to another. I'm reading a book, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm thirsty. I go and take a drink. Oh, maybe there is no more milk in the fridge. Tomorrow I have to buy the milk. And so I write down the milk. Oh, and something idea that comes again in the mind. They come one after the other. If you pay attention, sometimes you can see how the mind jumps from one object to another. This is tatra tatra abhinandi, so finding delight here and there. Is continuously moving, continuously searching for something. And why Tanha is the origin of dukkha? Because we have to understand what is the mechanism, what is the process underlying this question, right? So a craving is the origin of dukkha from different points of view, from a more superficial one, and of course there is a most profound meaning of craving. And the most superficial one, the Buddha actually deals with both meanings of dukkha. And in this passage that belongs to Digha Nikaya number 15, which is the Mahanidana Sutta, the Buddha outlines how craving is the base for all kinds of conflict, both at the personal level and a more broad level. So it says, independence upon craving, there is pursuit. Independence upon pursuit, there is gain. Independence upon gain, there is decision-making. Independence upon decision-making, there is desire and lust. Independence upon desire and lust, there is attachment. Independence upon attachment, there is possessiveness. Independence upon possessiveness, there is stinginess. Independence upon stinginess, there is safeguarding. And because of safeguarding, various evil, unwholesome phenomena originate. The taking up of clubs and weapons, conflicts, quarrels, and disputes, insulting speech, slander, and falsehood. So, the most obvious reason why Tanha creates dukkha is because we appropriate of thing, we desire thing. So this desire of something is in itself a condition of uneasiness. And when if we can get what we want, we become possessive. If we cannot get what we want, we become sad. If we can get what we want, we have to safeguard it from other people who want the same thing. And so because of this, there the origin of all the conflicts in society, the conflicts between people. And unfortunately, we have many examples nowadays of how this is true, not only at an individual level, but also international level. So it's the same mechanism, actually. This is mine. So if someone wants it, we start insulting or taking up weapons and so on. And this is the normal way of the common people to act in reference to what one possesses. And this is the most obvious and evident way in which craving is the origin of dukkha. But of course, this is based on what? This is based on a certain attitude of the mind towards phenomena. And craving is an aspect of prapancha or papancha. Craving together with conceit and views is an aspect of the process of mental proliferation called prapancha. They are the three modalities in which the egoic consciousness perceives the world. If you remember this one, last time we spoke about the five aggregate subject to clinging. So, and we say that what underlies this clinging is this process of conceiving and apprehending the data of experience always through the lenses of the self. And so it means that every instant of cognition is tainted by these three kind of defilements: craving, conceit, and views. Craving is this appropriation. Conceit is the notion of self. That is the basic, as I can say, the basic feeling of self. I am. And views are explanations of the self, what myself is. So we go back to so what is prapancha? Maybe, I don't know if you haven't even heard this word before. Prapancha is Sanskrit, papancha is Pali, and usually is translated as mental proliferation. And mental proliferation is the last step of a process of cognition. So when we meet an object, whatever object, there is sense impingement. So the first step is contact. So there is a sense faculty, for example, the eye. There is an object, maybe whatever you want. And then there is a consciousness that knows this process. Of course, their attention is what leads the consciousness to the object. So there must be some conditions for consciousness to be aware of the object. But anyway, this basic starting point is called contact. So the contact gives rise to a reaction that is a very primordial reaction. Is not emotion, is not something thought. It's very primordial reaction. So it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And simultaneous to it, there is the recognition, perception. Now, perception is already a construction, a mental construction, because we mentioned it last time that the mind tries to fit the data of experience into its own patterns that are already there. So this is what we call recognition. We call perception, sanya. And this object that is being recognized becomes the object of conditionings, of volitions. Conditionings are all the defilements that we take with us in this life from previous lives, and particularly volition. But the volition is the illusion of a self, is driven by the illusion of the self, and starts to elaborate, to think about the object in a way or another. And then this can proliferate. This thinking process can proliferate and take many different avenues, and is completely separate from the original impingement. It has nothing to do with the original impingement. So what happens is that, for example, let's make a couple of examples. So, for example, I see a human being, a person, and this is a visual object. No? So it's simply the contact is simply seeing a visual object with the eye, and the eye consciousness arises. And immediately, if it's someone that I don't like, an unpleasant feeling arises immediately. And I recognize, this is that bad guy. And then it starts something that has nothing to do with the object itself, but takes into memories, emotions. This is what we call sankaras, thoughts. So, this bad guy, yes, is the one who insulted me last year. So someone keeps grudges for years. No, last year he insulted me, and then mental proliferation comes. Oh, if he greets me, I will ignore him, and then pass away, or maybe I will punch him in the face. This is all thoughts. This is called mental proliferation. It's nothing to do with the object. If the object is pleasant, is someone that I like, the feeling will be a pleasant feeling. So the recognition, oh yes, is this very nice person. And so, and the thought process that come after, it will be different, but basically the mechanism is the same. So this is called mental proliferation, is the thinking that goes very far away from the object itself. And this mental proliferation is possible because of ignorance, of course, and is the intrusion of the intrusion of the ego consciousness, the ego, in every act of cognition through the lenses of this craving, conceit, and views, these three basic defilements. So craving is part of this way in which we construct our world, in which we perceive and construct our world. And here, Bhikkhu Nyanananda in Concept and Reality is the first book that Bhikkhu Nyanananda ever wrote, and you can download it for free in the website that I mentioned at you last time, seeing through the net.net. It's written in the PowerPoint anyway. If one does not entertain craving, conceit, and views with regard to the conditioned phenomena involved in the process of cognition, by resorting to the fiction of an ego, one is free from the yoke of proliferating concepts and has thereby eradicated the proclivities to all evil mental states which breed conflict both in the individual and in society. So, and this is, of course, the stage of enlightenment. So we eradicate, by the eradication of the avidya, we eradicate the self. The self is no more there, so it cannot intrude into our process of cognition, and so craving, conceit, and views simply are not there anymore. And we can have access to what is called a direct perception, so a perception that is divested of all the mental proliferation that is the result of these defilements. So we need so a very deep insight to get to become free from this process, and the Tanha is explained in the sutras with many different similes. And one of the most interesting one is the seamstress. You know what the seamstress is the one who makes clothes. So this Tanha is the one who stitches together what? Stitches together different phenomena, for example, one state of consciousness and the next, that are simply phenomena that arise and pass away, that are conditioned. The first one conditioned the next one. But craving stitches together all this to make an illusory continuity. The continuity of a lifespan, the continuity of an individual, of an identity. So we owe to Tanha the fact that all this seems to be a unit. Of course, and this rests on the basic avidya, on the basic ignorance, on the bottom, on the background. You can think of avidya as an ecosystem, the ecosystem in which all this is happening. Without that, of course, if avidya is cut off, everything is dismantled. All this process is dismantled. So the Buddha gave us this very beautiful simile, the seamstress, and now we read this sutta, which is pretty short. Here is written 61:7 middle. Can you see it? Okay. So this is very short, so we will omit some parts, so it's quite quick. So, thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Varanasi in the Deer Park at Isipatana. Now, on that occasion, after their meal, on returning from their alms round, a number of elder bhikkhus assembled and were sitting together in the pavilion hall when this conversation arose. It was said, friends, by the Blessed One in the Parayana, in the question of Metteya. Having understood both ends, the wise one does not stick in the middle. I call him a great man. He has here transcended the seamstress. The Parayana is the chapter on the going beyond, and one of the chapter of the Sutta Nipata. So it means that Sutta Nipata is a very old layer of Buddhist scriptures, and sometimes it's quoted in other scriptures. So it's evident that it was already not in written form, because you know that the suttas were written very late, but in oral form it was circulating already at the time of the Buddha. So the Buddha uttered these verses, and these bhikkhus take these verses as a theme of contemplation. So what, friends, is the first end? What is the second end? What is the middle? And what is the seamstress? When this was said, a certain bhikkhu said to the elder bhikkhus, contact, friends, is one end. The arising of contact is the second end. The cessation of contact is in the middle, and craving is the seamstress. For craving sues one to the production of that state of existence. It is in this way that a bhikkhu directly knows what should be directly known, fully understands what should be fully understood, and by doing so, in this very life, he makes an end of suffering. This is the summary of this sutta. There are 6 couples, first end, second end, and with a middle. And always what the seamstress is the craving. Craving is the seamstress. The craving is what stitches up the first end with the second end and bypass the middle. And so we need to understand now this sutta is very profound. So it will take a little bit of time to discuss all these 6. And the Buddha, what does the Buddha say? The Buddha endorses all these 6 explanations, but he says that when he was speaking the verses, he intended the first one, contact, origin of contact, and cessation of contact. Because cessation of contact, what is cessation of contact? Cessation of contact is nirvana. Cessation of contact is the experience beyond experience. Is an experience that is totally different from what we normally know, although it's an experience. So the seamstress takes the first end, stitches it with the second end, and bypasses the middle. In this way, it gives this illusion of continuity, illusion of identity. And so to explain, of course, there are many explanations of this sutta. There are, if you look at Bhikkhu Bodhi, for example, the text that we were explanation by Bhikkhu Bodhi, for example, contact. What he says in the note, he gives the explanation of the commentaries, and then he says we start here, in my opinion. In my opinion, it would make better sense to see Phassa Nirodha. Phassa is the Pali term for contact, which in Sanskrit is Sparsha. Nirodha means cessation, so cessation of contact. Here is not Nibbana, but the ceasing of contact at the end of the first existence. Craving is then the seamstress because it ties contact of the contact of the previous existence to the initial arising of contact at the start of the new existence. This is a commentarial explanation, but to explain this sutta, we will use another kind of explanation that is the one by Bhikkhu Nyanananda. This is the explanation that we are going to use. Can you see the PowerPoint? Yeah. Okay, so we will use basically this text that quotes the sutta and explains all the couples. So the law of dependent arising is a text of a collection of sermons, and so this sutta is quoted in sermon number 9. So we have the first case. The first case is contact. Contact, friends, is one end. The arising of contact is the second end. The cessation of contact is in the middle, and craving is the seamstress. Now, our life goes from one contact to the next, and we cannot see the cessation of contact. With our normal awareness, we cannot see the cessation of contact. To see the cessation of contact, we need a certain level of insight and concentration. Every contact, of course, is impermanent. So before a new contact arises, the one who comes before must end. And so only with a mind that has a certain level of insight and certain stability is possible to see cessation of contact. And in the end, the cessation of contact, it has to do, as I said, with the cessation of the six sense bases, which is in itself is the experience of the unconditioned element. So to understand exactly what all this means, of course, we need to understand what contact is. Of course, there is the very easy definition. Contact is defined as the coming together of an object, the base that is sensitive to it, and the corresponding consciousness that knows it. Of course, this is a classical definition as given also in the sutta. This is as always defined in the same way. So you have an object, for example, a flower, the base, which is the I, and the consciousness, the I consciousness that knows it. And it is the sixth link of dependent arising. It comes up there. It is conditioned by the six sense domains, and in turn conditions feelings, thereby leading to the arising of craving. So if there is no feeling, it's feeling that induces a reaction, the reaction of craving. So a feeling usually is a very pivotal point in insight meditation, because it allows us to control what comes after the reaction that comes after. So in many discourses, it is made clear that contact is not only the condition of feeling, but also of perception and samskara, conditioning, volition, thinking, the thinking process. Thereby, it is at the base of our basic sensory experience and the way in which we interpret and live it. Because the basic experience is just contact and feeling, but when we come to perception and samskara, we come to the interpretation of the experience. We come to the way we live the experience. So a contact is as the base of all this process. And contact is also one of the factors that make up nama in the compound Namarupa. And here I quote a paper, it's not a book, it's just a paper, a reflection on truth and experience in early Buddhist epistemology by Bhikkhuni Dhammadina. She's an Italian Bhikkhuni and a scholar. And she explains contact is the second key experiential term in early Buddhism. It points to the cradle or experiential interface of any subjective event. In the classical description of the dependent arising of dukkha that takes the form of a 12-link sequence, contact is conditioned by the six sense domains and in turn condition the arising of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling tones. Depending on feeling tones, craving as the cause of dukkha arises or else ceases. And this depends on how we operate, on how we observe feeling. If we just go with the flow, craving arises. If we stop at feeling and we can observe clearly what is going on, khanna, craving, will slowly cease. And so thus contact is the barest fact of conscious experience. In its absence, there is no subjectively relevant word. What means contact is not something, it's not a something, it's just the experience, it's just the fact, it is a way to express the fact that we experience phenomena. The experience of this phenomena is called contact. So contact has this meaning. And she goes on saying, even the most basic sensory experience is an experience to the extent that it is known, which requires the activation of the conceptual functions of the mind. These are the five components of name in the so-called group of name and form: feeling, tone, perception, intention, contact, and attention. Concerning the definition of name in Namarupa, do you know Namarupa? Namarupa comes up as one of the links of dependent arising. It depends on vijnana and conditions the six sense bases. Now, what is the definition of nama? If you look at the Sammaditthi Sutta, which is Majjhima Nikaya number 9, it will give you a definition according to 5 factors. The 5 factors that compound nama are feeling, perception, intention, contact, and attention, which are the basic function for knowing phenomena. Now, there is also the definition of nama that includes consciousness. But this is a little bit problematic. If you look at the Chinese sources, the Ekotarika Agama is in agreement with the Pali. So nama does not include consciousness. Other sources do include consciousness, but is a fact that all versions, Pali or Chinese, of the Mahanidana Sutta say that vijnana is the condition of Namarupa, and Namarupa is the condition of vijnana, which means vijnana is consciousness, which means that vijnana cannot be part of Nama, because they are mutually conditioning each other. A contact is part of Nama, so it's part of what? It's part of what allows us to know something, to have an experience, to perceive something. And this something that is perceived is known by consciousness. Taken together, name and form constitute the condition for, as well as the object of consciousness. As I said, consciousness and Namarupa have a mutual dependency. So consciousness conditions Namarupa, and Namarupa conditions consciousness. There is this loop. Bhikkhu Nyananda speaks of vortex. The same, also Bhikkhu Bodhi, you can find this term, the vortex of samsara is this relation between vijnana and Namarupa. And contact is part of it. What arises through mutual dependency between name and form and consciousness is then appropriated by the average worldling as a self through craving. So Namarupa is the object of consciousness, but consciousness doesn't simply recognize Namarupa. What it projects out is a self. And why? Because there is avidya, and there is craving. And now we quote again Bhikkhu Nyananda, the law of dependent arising. So we say that contact is defined as the coming together of three things: an object, a sense, and consciousness. But Bhikkhu Nyanananda points out that this consciousness actually is not something already there that comes together with the other two to make up contact. It's simply conditioned by the fact that the sense is meeting an object. It is not proper, I'm reading here, it is not proper to count I, forms, and I consciousness as three, because the third is the outcome of the other two. But the world doesn't see it because of ignorance. It is by putting the three together that the situation called contact comes to be. That means contact is something made up. Contact is, of course, conditioned. It is by forgetting or ignoring the fact that consciousness is dependently a reason that one puts together the three to make up contact. So at whatever moment the dependently arisen nature of consciousness is seen as a matter of experience, that contact ceases then and there. So you need to have an insight into the nature of consciousness, which is not a self, is not a continuity. That's simply a continuous flow of moments of experience in a dependently arisen relationship. And when we understand consciousness, we understand Namarupa, we understand their relationship. And so, because of that, the six sense bases, the six sense domains cease. And with the ceasing of the six sense domains, contact ceases. And this is nirvana. Well, that is the cessation of contact. What prevents its occurrence? Craving. Is the stitch that puts together arising and the arising of one contact and the arising of the next, but doesn't let us see what comes in the middle, the cessation. Craving. It stitches together contact and the arising of contact without allowing the worldling to see the cessation. This is that is in the middle. One can see it only with keen insight. It is by seeing penetratively the impermanence of contact that one gets the ability to see its cessation. And he concludes, this is the other collection of sermons, and this sutta is quoted also there, the other collection of sermons. This is the last sermon of the collection. According to the first interpretation, craving stitches up the first end, contact, with the second end, the arising of contact, ignoring the middle, the cessation of contact. It is beneath this middle, the cessation of contact, that ignorance lurks. When what is in the middle is understood, there is emancipation. One is released from craving. So our special attention should be directed to what lies in the middle, the cessation of contact. So is by paying appropriate attention to the process, and so slowly dismantling it, that one sees the cessation of contact. And cessation of contact is cessation of field of contact, the field of experiential, the field of our experience, which is the field of the sixth sense domain. And actually, the cessation of the sixth sense domain is one synonym of nirvana. So the first case of the sutta is very deep, and this is what the Buddha intended when he spoke the verses. We can also take up the second case, and we will stop at the second case because there is no time. The past is one end, the future is the second end, the present is in the middle, and craving is the substance. So this is the second end. And the logic behind is the same. So craving stitches together past and future and doesn't allow us to dwell in the present. So it makes us believe that there is a continuity between past and future, and this gives, as I said, this illusion of an identity, illusion of a continuity of experience, and makes us forget the present moment. And Dikuñánananda quotes this sutta, this is the Vadakarata Sutta. Let not a person revive the past, or on the future build his hopes, for the past has been left behind, and the future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let him see each presently a risen state. Let him know that and be sure of it invincibly, unshakably. So instead of dwelling on the past or imagining the future, we should constantly abide in the present time, in the present moment. If we abide in the present moment, we can penetrate impermanence. And if we can't penetrate impermanence, we have a door through selflessness. As Dikuñánananda says, the advice is not to run after the past, nor to have expectations about the future, because the past is gone and the future has not come yet. Even the present has nothing in it to hold on to when one sees it with insight. That is to say, as insight gets keener and keener, one finds nothing to grasp there, because the present is something that is very elusive, right? It's impermanent. If you, in the moment you say this is the present moment, it's already gone. So the middle is the present moment. To let go of the middle is to give up the present. So the trick is to let go. To let go, and one abides in the present if he's able to let go. What the seamstress craving keeps doing is to tempt us to forget the present and hold us confused between memories of the past and dreams about the future. Instead of it, if one gets used to attending to the present preparations then and there, present preparation, you can substitute the present conditional phenomena. What's happening at the present is conditional phenomena. At the peak of inside meditation, one can bypass the seamstress and win freedom. So this is the second case. All these 6 cases are possible ways of directing our insight in order to understand what lies in the middle, which means to understand impermanence, to become free from craving. So I think that for today is enough. And I'm afraid that we are not going to finish everything in just 4 lessons, but I think that it's better to just do things slowly and try to understand what we are talking about. And then maybe in the future, if there is some occasions and other occasion, we can go on. So because this sutta is very deep, so it's impossible to go through it very quickly. And to understand exactly what craving is and why craving is the origin of dukkha, we need to reflect on its nature, and to direct our attention where it should be directed. And okay, and now, so I think that we can stop here, and of course, questions, if you have any questions.
Well, I have one question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So if cessation of contact is something that's not conscious, if I understood it correctly, or it cannot be explained by consciousness, is it then something that how can we then experience that in this life? Isn't everything?
It is possible to experience it. If one reaches nirvana, that is the cessation of contact.
Then
nirvana, when we speak about contact, we are speaking about our normal experience, the normal experience based on a duality. Contact is there because there is a duality. There is a duality between what we call internal base and we call external base. Or now, this duality between an internal and external is something built up by our mind.
Mm.
And a contact is there because it seems to make a glue between what is in an internal subject that is knowing and an external object that is known. But if we can see with wisdom that this supposed self is not there, there is nothing there. There are only processes. There are only impermanent processes. This process simply implodes. It's not there. And that is the cessation of contact. That is a cessation of the six sense basis, and so the cessation of contact, because without the six sense basis, there is no contact. So it's the cessation of the experiential domain as we know it. But this doesn't mean there is no experience, because nirvana is defined as an ayatana, is a domain. So it's a domain of experience, but it's not an experience as we normally understand it, because it's completely gone beyond this duality. There is no self there. And so there is no body that experiences this nirvana, although nirvana is defined in the sutta as an experience, as domain.
So we cannot feel it in the
consciously.
Yeah, consciously we cannot feel it consciously. Sorry.
Actually, it's not that consciousness disappears. What disappears is ignorance. So what disappears is the projection, the illusory projection of a self into the experiential data.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
we cannot speak about nirvana as a feeling or as an experience it's normally intended, because it's not that.
So it cannot really be explained because you cannot feel it that way.
Yeah, I cannot say you can feel it, because there's no feeling. I mean, there is a feeling there. It's called the most pleasant experience, but it's not as we normally conceive of it, because the base for conceiving the world as we do normally is not there anymore, and this base is avidya. Avidya has already been dismantled, so there is no absolutely no projection of any self. Of course, it's difficult for us to understand. For me either. Of course, for me either. It's difficult to understand, but it's an experience that goes beyond our normal experience. It's the normal experience of a dual world, of a subject and object in relation, is not there anymore.
Yeah, because I was already thinking that if the goal is to stop the thirst of any kind of experience, and even consciousness, then you kind of have to give up the whole will for life itself, if that's the goal of nirvana, and not kind of be born again or be back again.
You're not back again. You will not come back again, or unless you're not yet enough. I mean, a Sotapanna or a Bodhisattva, the first Kumi, is still bound to come back for 7 times for a certain time, because it's not completely eradicated. One thing is getting an insight into the unconditioned element, and another thing is to eradicate all defilements and not come again to any plane of existence. There are 2 different things.
Yeah, I still don't quite, of course, understand it, but it's very complex.
Yeah, well, I must confess this. I also have some problem to understand simply because I'm not enlightened. I cannot figure out what the experience of the cessation of contact is. I
Yes.
can have an intuition after years of reading and reading. I can have an intuition of what it might be, but an understanding. But this understanding, of course, is not a direct understanding. So since I'm not enlightened, I still have doubts, of course. And I guess that you also, it's not easy to understand what that means, but it's only by and we can produce this experience it's only by deep insight, only by the penetration of the Noble Eightfold Truth. The Four Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths, and by experiencing directly experiencing the unconditional endowment. Also, it's not our experience, so we cannot be completely clear of what it is and what it looks like. It's difficult for us to understand because our mind cannot go out. Our mind is geared to interpret and see reality in a dual way, in a totally normal, is automatic. So we have to go against the stream of our normal way of knowing the world to understand or have a glimpse of what this means.
Yeah, thank you. That helps me because I've been wondering if the cessation of dukkha means that you have to kind of give up the will of life and then there's nothing in that place to take that place, but there is something, but it cannot be explained that easily.
In the very moment you place something or a something, or the cessation of something, for example, you say give up the life. These are all dual concepts. In as far as we live in concepts, we don't understand. We cannot understand because also even if nirvana becomes a concept, and this is written in the Mulapariyaya Sutta, if nirvana becomes a concept, it's not nirvana. It's not exactly that. In that, as far as we abide in concepts, we abide in interpretations. We don't abide in reality. So to abide in reality, we need a very deep insight. It's a total revolution of the way we perceive the world. It's always the same word. So very often we speak about samsara. It's nothing but nirvana. Nirvana is nothing different from samsara. What does this mean? It means that this word is this word. The problem is our perception. The problem is how we perceive the world. If we live in a normal way, the normal person like us live in a world of our perception. We don't live in reality. Of course, this works in the sense that our evolution brought us here and made us to know the world in a certain way because of evolution, because of is good for us to process the world in a certain way. But it's not the way the world is. And we constantly live in a world of our own perception. And to dismantle all this process, of course, we need to practice what the Buddha says, the Noble Eightfold Path. And of course, understanding at our level what means the cessation of contact. So what means the cessation of any experience as we know it. It, of course, is very difficult. It's impossible because our mind simply cannot get there.
Yeah, that helps me a lot. So we are actually not seeing the reality because our brain, through our senses, creates something else, and we need to see past that somehow.
Yeah, exactly. We need to see past that, past our ingrained way of perceiving the world.
Yes, I really look forward for the lesson about the third noble truth. That will be really interesting. Thank you very much.
I liked very much the idea of seamstress, because I think that it helps to perhaps to find out the situations where there are duality, because it is very, very concrete and finding that there is one end and another. And I think that, okay, if I'm in a situation that there starts coming ideas about the things I'm seeing or hearing, perhaps I found out that, okay, now the seamstress is coming. And I have to be very aware that I don't start sticking them together. I think that it was a fantastic example of how Buddha teaches, that he is very practical and he gives ideas, and then the bhikkhus went and thought about that what could be the first thing and the second thing, and there were names and forms, and then past and future and present. And I think that that was a very, very interesting teaching. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, it's a very beautiful sutta. Actually, and it's very profound. It seems, the wording is very simple, but actually it's very profound, because it gives you 6 different ways in which you can look at your experience and see where the problem lies, and try to get inside into it and to dismantle all this process. It's very interesting, yes. Yeah, the Buddha was the best of teachers, right?
I have one simple question. Can a non-arahant have motivations which are not based on tanha or not?
Well, tanha completely disappears only for an anagami. So the first fruit, second fruit, and also third fruit has not more sensual desires. But one who reaches the first fruit or the second fruit is still bound to a certain level of agitation. Actually, an arahant, wait, vediamo se lo trovo. So there are 10 basic fetters, right? And an anagami destroys the first 3, which are the first 3 fetters. Actually has something to do, they all have something to do with a view, with an opinion. But what remains are still craving, etc., etc. They are still there. So a Sokadagami is an enlightened person, and he will not again conceive of a self, but he will feel the self. There is a difference between the elimination of Sakaya Ditti, which is the opinion about the self, and the elimination of mana. We spoke about mana, no? The craving, conceit, and views. Conceit is mana. Conceit is eliminated only by an arahant. And since this is the situation, of course, even an anagami can be subject to defilements. They are subject to defilements still, but of course, nothing can be compared to our situation. One who has no more a concept of self, although he can give rise to desire, he will be able to control immediately all the stuff. We don't. We are not so keen, not so good at doing this. But Sokadagami and Shrotapanna, Sokadagami, and Anagami, they still have defilements. It's only an arahant that is completely free from defilements. So they are enlightened, but not completely enlightened. They have seen the unconditioned element, but they have not eradicated all defilements yet. So they are still subject to them. But of course, it's a totally different way of being defiled as we are, because we are simply taken away by our defilements. And an area cannot be taken away by its defilement because it's very keen. His sati is always there. And so he knows immediately if a defilement arises. And so he uses immediately the antidote, which we do not. Usually we cannot have sati 24 hours a day. So, and sometimes we are not able to use the antidote immediately. So we share our merits. We share all the merits we have just accumulated with all sentient beings so that they can realize the perfection of wisdom and be free from any suffering. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Thank you, everybody. So we can stop here and we meet again next week. Bye-bye.